Jim Grover. These are actual situations, things that'll make you survivable on the street.
You need to look at it from a survivability standpoint.
Simple.
So then what's important about how we're going to do this? What can I tell you about defensive shooting philosophy? The first thing is that awareness and avoidance is your primary objective. By being aware and being avoidant to an extreme, you're likely never to have to draw your weapon. Hell, most policemen who walk the streets for 20 years never have to draw their weapon. So the likelihood of you having to do it can be minimized greatly if you stay aware and you're very avoidant. You see a situation, get away from it. If you wouldn't go there without a gun, don't go there with a gun. If you go there with a gun, you're begging a gunfight. Another thing that we need to understand is the slapping gun leather myth. That is, stand tall, sling lead. I see someone drawing on me, I'm going to outdraw him. That's an impossibility. Think about it. If you can draw and fire your weapon at 7 yards in 1.5 seconds, and I can do the same, and the first indication that I have that there's going to be a gunfight is when you do this, I'm already how far behind? You've already made your mind up what to do, and you've already engaged your physical motor reflexes. I have to see it, understand it, engage my motor reflexes, and then decide to actually do it. Probably your better bet is to dive to cover and then draw your weapon if you have to. So don't think that we're just going to be on 12 o'clock high here and we're going to face each other and draw. That's ridiculous, and it's a good way to get shot. Another thing that we need to understand is at the time a shooting is going to occur, everything else ceases to exist. Isolate everything. Isolate your head, isolate your shoulders. Don't take another step, don't take another breath. Draw the gun and fire. That's going to be the fastest way that you can respond to a threat. If we put a lot of intermediate actions in there, that's going to slow you down. And what we're going to do is take critical time away from your reaction time. Reaction is always going to be slower than action, but we can moderate that a little bit and trim off excess time so that you have the best possible reaction time. Okay, folks, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to approach your training today. What we're going to try to do is we're going to teach you some defensive shooting. As we do that, you're going to find that you can build a group during each stage of your training. Just when you get a nice group, we're going to throw a variable at you. And then you're going to lose that group. It's going to explode. Then you're going to master that variable. And just when you think you've got that under control, we're going to put another variable into the works. And you're going to lose that group. It's a continual process so that by the end of the day, no matter what we do to you, you've got a good, acceptable group. Don't be frustrated. Just stay with the program. Pay attention to detail. And if you need to, review the tape now and then. Understand that I can take a chimpanzee down here to the range and teach him to hold a gun and squeeze a trigger. That's not teaching anybody shooting. In order for us to really teach you how to shoot, we need to learn a little bit about the incident that you may be required to shoot in first. That's where real training becomes incorporated into your routine. Another thing is make yourself do the things you don't like to do. Everybody likes to do what we're good at. Everybody likes to look good. But it's hell to keep clearing that double feed. It's tough. It's difficult. But only by doing it will you get good. And in Murphy's Law, we know that if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And at the worst possible time, you're going to have that malfunction you trained for the least. So pay attention to those things that you don't like to do necessarily. Make sure that you stay consistent in your training. Make sure that you pay attention to detail during your training. Your training counts. Don't just go to the range and fritter away 50 to 100 rounds. Make each round count and get consistent training. Do consistent dry practice at night. I try to do 10 minutes at least every night on a couple of different objectives, maybe reloading, maybe malfunctions, maybe just drawing fire. The last thing I want to talk to you about is mind and body, fitness. Okay, so many shooters are out there that want to be into action shooting or understand how to want to take care of themselves on the street, but they're not fit. They don't have any endurance. They can't run. They can't do the minimal amount of push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups. Everybody should be reasonably fit. If you're going to walk the streets in hostile areas, you got to be fit. So pay attention to both mind and body. Okay, we have to be a total person. We have to have mind fitness, which means that we'll be able to do what we need to do, when we need to do it, perhaps without hesitation. The other thing is that our body has to support that. In other words, my body has to be able to do those things under great duress. One is no good without the other. So consistency in training and mind and body fitness. Make sure you pay attention to both. Likely conditions to be present are, number one, you're truly out of control. And what we mean by that is not that you're out of control of your physical motions, but you're out of control of the environment. You're moving through an environment with a concealed weapon, and something has to happen in order for you to draw your weapon. And that's probably going to be based on startle. It's going to mean that something's occurred, you see it, all of a sudden you're frightened, you draw the weapon, and you're going to have to respond. We know we're not going to draw the pistol to brandish, we know we're not going to draw the pistol to threaten, and we know we're not going to likely draw the pistol and give verbal commands. More likely than not, we're going to draw the pistol and shoot. Another thing that we need to understand is that there's probably going to be more than one assailant. Multiple assailants will probably be what you face for one reason. People attack you when conditions are most advantageous to them and least advantageous to you. Once you understand that, you know that the attacks likely aren't going to come on your face. They're going to come from a flank. Maybe there'll be someone who stops in front of you, but he's not the primary attacker. The primary attacker might be to your left or your right or behind you. So you have to understand the concept of multiple assailants. Another thing to understand is the distances involved. We're talking about less than 21 feet, the mythical 21 feet, which is seven yards. In close quarter battle, we came up with 21 feet because that was an average run diagonally. That was about as long as you could get. I don't know why other people have hung on to 21 feet. Likely we're talking 10 feet, 15 feet, somewhere around in there. Statistics have shown us that most gunfights occur in under 4 seconds with less than 4 total rounds being fired. 4 total rounds. What that means is that the likelihood of you having to do a combat reload while you're engaging is minimal. It doesn't mean we shouldn't practice it, but it means that we don't want to put an inordinate amount of time on that training objective. Another thing that you need to understand about these situations is that low light is going to figure in there. And what I mean by low light is dusk, dawn, times of less than broad daylight. Obviously that favors an attacker and it doesn't favor you. So you need to be fairly apt at firing at night and understanding night firing principles, which we'll get to. All right, let's talk about the business at hand then. How your body's going to interact with your pistol, the carry mode of your pistol. There's a lot of discussion about this. I feel really strongly that the only way to carry your pistol is locked and loaded, just like that. This gun's not going to go off by itself. Your body has to interact somehow with it. Either my finger on the trigger guard, the trigger on my trigger guard in my holster, something has to happen. If you've paid attention to the rest of your equipment, your holster, your belt, etc., the gun's not going to fall out no matter what combat-related activity you're involved in, running, jumping, crawling, dragging, running, etc. So just keep that in mind. This is a safe way to carry your pistol. You don't have to worry about it. Once you get used to carrying it, you'll find that you're not touching it all day. You're not concerned about it. You're not concerned about maybe it bumping something just unexpectedly. It won't go off by itself. Carrying locked and loaded is about the only safe way to carry on the street because you're going to have to react to startle. The less things that you have to do at that critical point, the better off you are and the faster you're going to be able to respond. Lastly, remember, there are no accidental discharges, just negligent discharges. No gun just accidentally goes off. All right, let's talk about one of the most important things that we can today, your grip. That's where the gun's going to interact with your hands directly. So we have to be very, very conscious of what the best grip is and what possibly one of the worst grips is. First, let's make sure that our weapon's unloaded. Once you've done that, let's talk about the grip. The problem with the standard grip is the overlapping thumbs grip, is that there's an inherent weakness here. When a gun goes off, a detonation occurs, an explosion, and explosions follow the path of least resistance. Now, as you look at my hand here, you can see that there's actually an inherent weakness right here on this plane, right here. So the gun is going to be prone to muzzle flip and muzzle recoil, making the gun come back and in and out of my grip each time I fire. In order to get rid of that inherent weakness and isolate the gun front to rear and side to side, we're going to change our grip a little bit. First, you're going to grasp the gun firmly, but not tightly, with your right hand. Your right hand just merely provides a trigger finger, that's all. Your left hand is the most important hand. Remember that. Make yourself understand it and practice it at the range. Now, your left hand is going to go right on the gun in an aggressive thumb forward grip like this. As I approach the gun here, keeping it in line with the bones in my forearm, I'm going to hold pressure front to rear with this hand. And then I'm going to apply side-to-side pressure with my left hand. Now look down on this pistol. Can you see any inherent weakness? What we've done is we've taken away that plane that occurred here at 10 to 12 o'clock. We've laid our thumb up against it aggressively. The gun can't go anywhere, and what you'll find is when you master this grip, your muzzle's only going to move about 1/8 of an inch between shots. All right, let's talk about the grip in even more detail, since it is one of the most important things that you can master. Shooting's like driving. You can get away with murder at 10 miles an hour. But at 100 miles an hour, you can't get away with When you're shooting, you can shoot any way you want for one round. You can shoot like Annie Oakley with a mirror behind your back. But when you have to shoot multiple assailants and all the rounds have to count, you better have a grip that supports that. Your grip better be able to control the gun under a maximum firepower load. So let's talk about it in even more detail. As you notice, as my thumbs are both pointing towards my target, all I'm going to do is place the weapon right in my hand. Now ergonomically, as I hold my hand here with my wrist cammed down and my thumb pointing straight, you can see that the angle of my hand matches the angle of the gun. This is not a 90-degree angle. And a lot of people that hold a gun like this, using the overlapping thumbs, create a break right here in their wrist. Like I already spoke about, we know that an explosion is going to occur when this gun goes off. The explosion is going to follow the path of least resistance, which means my wrist is going to give. So let's take that weakness out by pointing the thumb all the way straight forward, camming our wrist down, and naturally working with the gun here, my fingers pointing 45 degrees down to the ground. Now, all I have to do is place the gun in my hand. Another thing to notice is that there's no grip showing between the palm heels of my hand, none at all. I've got firm control front to rear and firm control side to side. It's supported 360 degrees around the gun. Be very wary of gorilla grip, and what I mean by that is gripping the gun so tight with the right hand that when you press the trigger finger's not operating independently. You want the trigger finger to be fast and limber. The only way to do that is by loosening up the grip in your right hand. Hold the gun tighter with your left hand and concentrate on that. It's an easy one to forget. All right, let's address a few common student mistakes. The first one is that since this may be kind of an awkward grip at first, students have a tendency to want to bend their thumb but still have their wrist bent, so it appears that both thumbs are pointing, but in actuality, look what we're back to, my 90-degree angle. Remember to cam the wrist forward. Don't do this and bend the thumb. Cam the wrist down and hold the thumb forward on a straight angle pointing directly towards your target. The second thing that students most likely do is forget that there's more pressure on the left side, and I hate to keep harping on that, but it is the most important thing you can do here, than the right hand, all right? Emphasize the left hand all the time when you're shooting. Another thing is that students will, as they grip the gun, they'll continue to push out past the point when the gun goes off. In other words, they'll reflexively squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. Keep consistent pressure all the time with the left hand and firm pressure with the right. That way you'll have a lot less problems. Okay, let's talk about stance now, and there's an inordinate amount of attention that people give to stance. What I might say next is going to sound like heresy, but please put it in context. Your stance is not important. Now, I know some of you Weaver shooters and some of the isosceles shooters and some of these different kinds of shooters may get upset by that, but let's put it in context. Will you be able to control your stance when you're jumped? The answer is no. Are you going to want to take the extra time necessary to get into the proper stance to respond to the confrontation? Hopefully your answer is no. So what we try to do is shoot with our feet in a variety of different positions. Yes, in a perfect world, we would like to be slightly bladed to the target. We would like our strong side back, okay? But that may not happen. We might find ourselves that our strong side is forward. We may find that they're even, perpendicular to our target. So what we need to do is be able to shoot no matter what our feet are doing and shoot accurately. Now, what I don't agree with is the Weaver stance. And the reason I don't agree with the Weaver stance is because this, it's not a natural motion, all right? Your body doesn't do this under startle, okay? This was designed for police when they were moving up on a felon's car or when they could have the weapon out expecting trouble. As civilians or people who are working undercover, you don't have that ability. You can't walk around with your pistol out. You can't expect trouble walking around like this. More often than not, what's going to happen is you're going to have a threat and, whoa, you're going to draw the gun. And you're going to jam that gun straight to the target. That's really what happens in a close confrontation. Okay, so to work with that, we have to pay attention to a few things, but not that many. Number one, drawing your weapon is an aggressive act. It's like throwing a punch. The most common mistake people do is they lean away from the gun when they're at the range. They'll lean back like this. And every shot they fire, they go a little bit further back. It's just like I threw a punch. I'm going to lean forward with the gun. He asked for it, give it to him. Okay? So when you draw the pistol, give it right to him. Feed him the gun. All right? Hunch your shoulders, which is going to isolate your head. We want to isolate as much as possible from the initial threat information that we receive. So as I'm standing here and I get my threat information, I'm going to come here, isolate my head, everything stops moving. I don't even have to worry about my feet. My feet can be reversed, it's the same. My feet can be perpendicular, it's the same. So don't get hung up on stance. It's really not that important. One last thing I want to say about stance is beware of the preparatory step. The most common student mistake is as they draw, they'll take a preparatory step. And what happens is your whole target picture changes when you take that preparatory step. Initially, when you get your assault cue, you see what's important. The minute that you do this, you've just changed everything in relation to the target. Stop what you're doing and just draw and fire. That's the most important thing. Now, please, I'm a victim of my own experience. These are my opinions. I'm not trying to take on the Weaver shooters. I'm not trying to take on the isosceles shooters. What I'm telling you is what has been my experience in combat situations and what I have seen others do in combat situations. The fact of the matter is I've never seen anybody draw to a Weaver. I've always seen them go. You're most likely going to be attacked when conditions are least advantageous to you and most advantageous to your attacker, which probably doesn't mean a face-on attack. And this is going to upset your natural stance anyway. If I'm attacked from an oblique angle, I'm going to have to turn to get the gun out anyway. And the minute that I do that, any perfect stance goes south. So forget about your feet. Pay attention from your belt up. Master your grip, and you'll be a lot better off.
Okay, let's talk about the most critical place where our hand interacts with the pistol, and that's the trigger. We want to make sure that we're very careful how we manipulate the trigger. I don't mean that you're going to be very careful when the stress of a lethal confrontation hits. What I mean is we have to adhere to a few basic principles. Number one is keep the finger off the trigger unless you intend to shoot. That includes when you're running, moving, whatever. Most negligent discharges occur from sympathetic muscle tightening. And that's if I was running and start to fall, and I tense up, boom, and the gun goes off. That's a negligent discharge caused by sympathetic muscle tightening. Keep the finger clear of the trigger unless you're actually on target and firing, or the muscle's in a safe direction. Secondly, don't think that you're going to take the trigger pad and put that on the trigger like we learn in target shooting. When you're under great duress, you're going to grab the gun and your finger's going to naturally fall on the trigger. For most people, that's this first crease right here. Let that happen naturally and get used to shooting that way. Next, make sure that you actually press the trigger like you would press a button. What I mean by that is watch the motion of my finger. It's straight to the rear. My finger's not slapping at the trigger. In other words, I'm not doing this, where my finger's coming off the trigger for every shot. I don't need to do that. Well, my finger's just going to ride the trigger, so when the slide cycles, it pushes it back out naturally. If I straighten my finger, it would be an excessive motion. Gorilla gripping. You've heard me talk about it before, but now I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. With a two-handed grip, gorilla gripping occurs when, with my whole right hand, I press the trigger, and the gun's going to dart to one side. We don't want to do that. Remember, the right hand holds the gun firmly, but just really supplies the trigger finger. It's the left hand that really puts the bite on your pistol. That way we can just use our trigger finger normally, and the gun won't even move. Another thing that people make the common error of doing is waiting until the end of their draw stroke to trigger. As you draw the weapon, your finger is going to naturally slide into the trigger guard as your hands collect the gun. Then as you start to push the gun out and pick up your sight, press the trigger, boom, and the gun's going to go off right at full extension. What you don't want to do is do a component shoot. In other words, grip the gun, clear the holster, put your hands together, push it out, find the sight, press the trigger. That's slow, and that's how novices shoot. You want one cumulative act of firing, and how that's going to occur is by getting on your sights early, getting on your trigger early, boom, and there the gun goes off.
Another thing that you want to make sure that you're not doing is staging your trigger. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first demonstrate it without shooting. Trigger staging is where the trigger is pulled in increments, which causes the hammer to come back in increments, which causes hands shake, and then the hammer falls. Again, back, 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 boom. Okay, what we want to do is have a smooth motion all the way through the trigger stroke, from start to finish. Okay? Don't stage your trigger because it's going to cause a lot of other marksmanship problems. All right, let's load up now and just do a couple of these smooth double action shots so that you can see how the trigger is going to move throughout the range of motion.
When you fire your pistol, what I want you to do is shoot and hold the trigger down, then relax. Shoot, hold the trigger down, then relax. Shoot, hold the trigger down, then relax. That's going to ensure that you've kept constant pressure and that you're not extending your trigger finger all the way through each time. Let's take a look at how it looks live fire. First I'm going to shoot and hold the trigger down, open it up. Shoot, hold the trigger down, let it out. Using that technique, you'll find that you can cure your trigger slap problems.
All right, let's talk about sight work now. Sight work's probably, you know, obviously one of the most important things that we can do with the handgun. Sights are on the gun for a reason, okay? They're on the gun to sight. It's on a handgun. All right, the first thing is we're going to work off most commonly what's called a flash front sight picture. That's a sight picture that's not a target sight picture. Yes, you're going to see a straight line across the top of the sights. The rear sight and the front sight will be level. Yes, there'll be a little daylight on the left and a little daylight on the right. Yes, the three dots will roughly line up. In other words, it's a rough sight picture. One that flashes, you got it, bang. Okay? You're not going to take time to correct it. It's not going to be perfect, okay? We're trying to hit a thoracic cavity right here, okay? Whether I hit him here or here doesn't really matter because I'm going to shoot several times. So I just want to make sure that I hit somewhere in here. But anything out here starts to get unacceptable. And when I stress you by shooting back, if you're doing this in training, what do you think you're going to do in a real situation? Sure, you're off the target, all right? So that becomes a combination of your proper grip, your ability to master the grip, and your ability to be on the sights and use them effectively. Number two, a lot of people like to close one eye, and there's an obvious problem with that, all right? People will take the weapon, they'll put it out there, and they'll close that eye. Well, when you close that eye in a defensive situation, you've just lost half of the threat information that you had. I can't even see my hand over here, okay? Can't see it, can't see it, can't, now I can. So I've lost all that available threat information. Now, coupled with the peripheral vision loss that we know is going to occur from cortisol and epinephrine hitting our system, with that one eye, you're going to lose, let's say, an additional 40%, and that's generous, 40% of your available vision. You're down now completely out of this eye and down to only 60% of one eye of the available threat information. It doesn't make sense to do that. You have to leave both eyes open, and even though, yes, you are going to lose some peripheral vision, that's why we head sweep. We use the third eye principle, right? 1, 2, 3, all right? So use the sights, keep both eyes open, don't close one eye, all right? Another thing that we have to be concerned about is that we want to work the sights as close into our body as possible. A lot of times you'll see, like we said earlier, component shooting. Grip the gun, clear the holster, push it out, find the sight, press the trigger. That's not fast enough, all right? You want a sight in here. I'm on the sight right now. I'm still on the sight. I'm still on the sight. There's no problem with that, okay? You want to bring it so the sight and trigger action of the gun is closer in here and not out there. It's got to happen early, not late, okay? So we're going to try to sight quickly. The only way that we can do that is by bringing the gun up into a good index and running it straight past our eye, picking it up and riding it right to the sight. Remember, all we're trying to do is interrupt our eye-target line. So I'm looking at the target. Now all I've got to do is stuff my front sight in between my eye and the target and refocus on my front sight. Sounds like a lot of work. And if you didn't train, it would be. You wouldn't be able to do it. But through proper training, you'll find yourself going faster and faster and faster and faster. And now you really won't even be that conscious of seeing the front sight. It's there. All right? And that's the point that you want to get at. And later on, we're going to talk about acceptable times and standards for all of this. Everything we do today is no good at all without standards. So we're going to have time standards we've got to meet. All right, now, we talked about what we should do at the sites. Let's look at what we shouldn't do and what you might find yourself doing, okay? When we're working on sites, the most common thing that people want to do is they'll draw the gun, get it out, they'll get the sight right, and then, just at the last second, they'll want to watch the round hit their target. So see my head just move that imperceptible bit? Boop. In that second, you're going to lose your sight picture. You're going to lose anything you had, and your hit's not going to go where you thought it was, all right? Trust the sight. What you want to see, literally, is a blurry target and a very clear front sight and a blurry back sight. Pay attention to that and discipline yourself to get just that, okay? The second thing people want to do, like firing controlled pairs or hammers, they want to look at the target between rounds. In other words, I get it out, I shoot once, I look at the target, I shoot again, all right? And you'll find people, they'll try to adjust their round. Oh, maybe that didn't go just where I want. I look at it, I see it, now I bring it up. That's a training inadequacy. When you shoot a human being, you're not going to see the hole. It's not like TV where geysers fly out. You are not going to see the hole for folds of clothes, movement, light, etc. You will not see them. So it's stupid, it's fruitless to train yourself on the range to shooting, looking where that round went, and then shooting again by adjusting the muzzle. You're not going to do that in real life. What we're after in real life is general body motion. What you're looking for is this, or this, or nothing at all, which means that you still need to shoot some more. Okay? So let's get that out of our system. Don't look at the target between shots, okay? And don't look at the sight and then quickly transition to the target to watch your shot hit, your round hit. You're not going to be able to do it. And lastly, what I want to talk about is not seeing the front sight placed on the target. In other words, you see nothing. You see blur, blur. You're not really focused on anything because you're trying to go too fast. Literally, interrupt your eye target line with the front sight. See the front sight clearly on your target, bang, there it is. Okay, it's that simple. You don't have to do anything other than that. It's a discipline, and it's very nerve-wracking under fire to try to find that sight. What you need to remember is that that's your salvation. Being able to hit what you aim at is going to stop the problem. If you just squirt bullets down there, it's suppressive fire, yeah, it might keep their head down, but where are those rounds going? Are they endangering innocent people? And how long are you going to hold their head down before they say, oh, he's out of ammo, and they come charging this way? So get the job done right, stay on the front sight, keep it clear, put it where it belongs, and fire staying on the front sight. Every time you shoot, let's say I just shoot one round, boom, there's one sight picture, then I do it again, that's the one I confirm, then I drop, look at my target, and put the gun away the same way it came out. If I'm shooting double taps, I come up, out, bang, bang, and a third sight picture to confirm, drop it, and put it away. So you always do one extra. The one you shoot, the one that you confirm, every single time, okay? Confirmation of your front sight is going to exponentially increase your hit probability and make you a much better shooter. Attention to detail will get you there. The mark of a true professional with a handgun is how you manipulate it. And this is something that a lot of people don't like to listen to because a lot of you have been shooting for years and years and years. This is just a new slant, and it's kind of the trend, the way things are done on government ranges, public ranges, places where a lot of students have to go through in a short period of time. It emphasizes safety and keeps everything under control so the range control officer can keep an eyeball out on both sides, make sure everybody's safe. I just want to run through with you really quickly. I'm not going to talk about the standard safety rules that we all know. Always be sure you're backstop, never put your finger on the trigger unless you intend to shoot, never point the weapon at anything you don't intend to shoot, etc., etc. This is just manipulation skills, all right? Now, think of it this way. If I'm on deployment and my partner is sitting there and he's struggling to do a press check, and let's say that we're getting ready to go out on the street and we need to press check and he does something like this. Oh, that's not very confidence inspiring, all right? What you want to see is you want to see the guy that says, all right, we're ready to hit the street. Let's go. Boom. Nice, quick, You know he knows what he's doing. He's handling the gun efficiently, the muzzle's in a safe direction, he's not endangering anybody, gets the job done, puts it away, whoop, you're out the door. That's confidence inspiring. And likewise, when you're on a range, people who look at you might look at you kind of funny if you're bobbling the gun and the muzzle's going this way and that. So let's talk a little bit about handling the gun, manipulation, all right? First, let's talk about unloading the gun, since my gun is loaded, all right? When you're going to unload the gun, simply draw the gun. Always try to draw. Bring it back in, all right? Turn the gun, take the magazine out, put it between your little finger and your ring finger. Keep your hand over the muzzle, over the ejection port, bring it sharply to the rear, lock it to the rear, so now you have a complete safe weapon. There's no round in the chamber, you can see in there, your magazine is right between your little finger and your ring finger, and you have the round that came out of the chamber. If you don't have the upper body strength, and some people don't, to do that, what you want to do is not worry about that round, all right? Simply take the magazine out, put it between your ring finger and little finger, and let that one fly, and then check it, all right? That way you're not trying to do a coordination thing where you're catching the bullet, okay? That's not necessary. It's nice, but it's not necessary, all right? So that's what you want to do. You want to have the slide locked to the rear, you can see right in it, and there's your magazine, complete safe weapon.
Full jacketed, half jacketed, sometime jacketed, formal jacketed. Smoking jacketed.
Smoking jacketed. I'm going to take the weapon out, have it in a safe direction. I'm going to put the magazine in. Ergonomically, I'm going to roll it over, do that, let it cycle around in, and then I'm going to press check. I see that there's a round in the chamber. Now I'm going to put it away. All right? Let's go through that one more time. Now, there's a reason for this, all right? If you do it the same way all the time, every time, you're never going to leave one of these steps out, okay? So, remember, the most dangerous gun in the world is an unloaded one. All right, I'm going to go out. My gun's in a holster. I know it's cleared. I'm going to take the gun out, all right? No sweat. I take my magazine. I put it in ergonomically, roll the gun over, let the slide go home. Don't ride it home. Now I press check. Now notice on my press check, I'm coming under the gun and pulling back just enough to see brass in there. That's what you want to do. You just want to see that, yep, I have a round in there. Let it go fully forward, give it a tap if you need to, and then return it to the holster, okay? With 45s, there's a technique called a pinch check. There's a press check, which I just demonstrated. Thumb safety comes down, pull it back, see the brass, let it go forward. And there's also a pinch check. I can't do it with a Glock, but I'm going to talk you through it. Pinch checks were taught years ago. I still do it when I shoot a 45, but it makes a lot of people very hanky. What you're going to do is take the weapon out. You're going to put your thumb in the forward part of the trigger guard. The finger goes on the end of the recoil plug, and you pinch. And you see the round. The slide's going to come back slightly. Now, it's obvious why that makes people really nervous. See where my finger is, see where the muzzle is. There's no problem with that if your trigger finger's off and you make sure that you keep constant forward pressure with your thumb, all right? A good rule of thumb is to just resort to a press check. If you resort to a press check, then nobody's fingers are near the muzzle, and it works with all automatics, okay? In the case of double action automatics, don't fight the double action. Cock the hammer back, come under the gun, check it, let it go forward, use the decocking lever to let the hammer go home, and put it away. Leave the weapon off safe. The double action is your safety, okay? So we've covered loading and unloading and press checking. Now, one last thing. Anytime you need to lock the slide to the rear, the most common range error in the world is turning the gun down the firing line, and that's something that'll make everyone's hair turn white, all right? Let's say that we've been firing, we've been doing our thing, whatever, okay, and I need to lock my slide to the rear for whatever reason, okay, whatever condition my gun's in. This is what you see that's incorrect. Ooh, not good. My muzzle, people, okay? If you find yourself doing that, okay, what you want to do is you want to take a quarter step towards the target line. I'm going to do the same thing now, but I'm going to do it safely. Let's say that you are at the target line. Quarter step, draw the gun. Now it's facing downrange. Slide goes home, put it away. Now I'm stepping back. That way nobody's endangered, okay? No one on the firing line has been endangered. The muzzle's in a safe direction. I'm using the strength of my body, and I'm not fighting the gun. Always try to use the gun ergonomically. Don't be afraid to turn that back and forth. Doing this isn't very efficient. Doing this is. Drawing the weapon is probably the single most important thing that you can do. Whether it's a knife, drawing the knife, whether it's a stick, drawing the stick, whether it's unarmed, getting the shot off, or your gun. If you can't get it out, you might as well not have it. So we have to pay a lot of attention to draw, and that's where a lot of your time is going to be spent. We know certain things are going to happen under startle. Religiously, under startle, we know that a few things are going to happen to your body. Number one, your neck is going to crane forward. Your hands normally fly helplessly upward. Your stomach tightens. And then there's a lot of physiological things that happen when cortisol and epinephrine flood your system. General muscle tightening, peripheral vision narrows in, you get tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, tachypsychia, etc., okay? So what we've done is we've taken a real hard look at all of those things and then applied the most important things to drawing the weapon. Because if we let those interfere with the process, we'll never get the gun out and we'll eat the round. We don't want to do that, all right? So what we'll do is we'll just start off, and I'm going to use Daryl to show you some of the most important things. The first thing is, beyond clearing the garment, we'll do that in a second here, the three-finger grip that you attain on your pistol. If you don't get a proper three-finger grip on the pistol initially, you're going to bobble the gun all the way out. And when you do that, it's going to prevent you from getting on the trigger early and getting on the sight early. And remember, our goal is to make this one cumulative act of firing with the gun going off just shy of full extension. No hesitation, not component shooting. All right? So what we're going to do is, on our initial assault cue, when we're startled, both of Daryl's hands are going to come up, but when they come up, they're going to do something. Initially, he's going to move his left hand at the same time as he moves his right, and he's generally going to point his thumb at the target area. So instead of a purely helpless motion, all he's going to do is this. It's a slight modification. Now, when he does that, the hand is ready to go to our 45-degree angle we talked about earlier, okay, this instead of this. His right hand is going to come in with the fingers touching his chest, ready to rip the garment away. As his hands move down, he's going to go straight down onto the pistol, sinking the thumb well behind the body of the frame. All right? He's not going to go so fast he misses the pistol and comes back onto it. He's going to go directly to the gun. Once he comes directly to the gun, he's going to draw it straight up, leaving his elbow high. And he's going to use as a physical index point his thumb on his pectoral bone. This distance is never going to change. It's always going to remain the same. Whether he's canted one way or the other, it doesn't matter. Now, if he was to drop his elbow, you'd see that the gun goes down into like a hip shooting position. We don't want to do that. We want to have the sight come up first, right to his eyes. So as he comes up, he's going to leave his elbow up like he was getting ready to throw a punch. Now, as he pushes the gun forward, he's going to leave his thumb flagged on the pistol. We'll get back to that. He's going to start to pick up the sight in his peripheral vision. His thumbs are going to lay down, his finger's going to go into the trigger guard, and he's going to squeeze, boom, the gun will go off at full extension. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap Daryl, and very slowly he's going to move through this very systematically so you can take a look at it. Three-finger grip, turns the gun, and collects it out, finger in, bang. Okay, the gun's going to be going off just shy of this point. It's going to be going off right about here, and that's just what you want, okay? Go ahead and put it away. All right, now let's take a look again. He's going to do it real smoothly, and I'm going to try to talk through it, okay? Startle occurs, hands fly up. He points the thumb at the target, attains a good three-finger grip, leaves the thumb flagged, indexes, collects, gets on the trigger in sight, bang, the gun goes off. Cumulative act of firing. Okay, go ahead, put it away. Now what we're not doing is we're not making robots. He can stop at any time he needs to. If something happens down in the target area, the target picture changes, the person stops doing the threatening activity, he's not going to drop the hammer. He's not going to continue to press the trigger. We're not automatons. We still have a mind attached to our trigger finger, and we'll never change that, all right? But now let's go into a little bit more detail about what's going on here. You can see the general motion of the gun. Let's talk about some things that people do wrong and why we don't do them. Okay, first, let's talk about scoop and lazy left hand, okay? By lazy left hand, I mean Daryl leaves his left hand adrift somewhere, doesn't do anything with it, grabs the gun, starts to go to target, puts the gun and his hands together way out here somewhere. Too many moving parts. His hand's moving, this hand's moving, his head's moving. There's no way that he can get the cumulative package together fast enough to get the round off as soon as we want. Remember, we're behind the power curve. We're reacting to an action. Okay, so go ahead and put it away. So that we don't want to do. We don't want to have that left hand adrift. Both hands move simultaneous. Boom, right here. So this hand's ready to collect the gun, boom, and we're going out. Also, what he's not doing is he's not going to muzzle flash his left hand. Okay, go ahead and muzzle flash your left hand. He's not doing this, where because of sympathetic muscle tightening or we get startled again or something calamitous happens, he's not going to have his finger on the trigger, boom, and put a hole in his left hand, do the enemy's job for us. He's not going to do that. He's going to be very careful, leaving the hands aside here and then collect them as he pushes out to the target. All right? Now, he's not going to scoop the gun. And what I mean by scooping the gun, if you would scoop, whoa, look at that scoop. Okay, now do it all the way out to the target. Give him a big scoop like we see from former training guys. Bang, just like that. There's a few reasons for that. You see that in a lot of old law enforcement training videos, and some people still don't think that that's a wrong thing to teach. Here's why we do. I'm standing here, a shot goes off on a city street, something happens. There's innocent people around. I'm not involved with this shooting. I just happen to be standing here, okay? Darryl, I start to turn. Darryl's going to react to the threat he just responded to. He pulls his gun and scoops. Watch what happens. Whoa! My natural reaction, not knowing what's going on, is to avert the muzzle. I avert his muzzle and prevent him from answering the threat. Don't want that to happen, all right? Now, let's say that I am the attacker, okay? Move just a little bit sideways here. Let's say that he's going to draw on me, okay? And he goes to scoop. Okay, he goes to scoop. Whoa! We're back to the same thing. All right, I'm past his gun, and I can take advantage of that. What he wants to do is he wants to index directly at me so that if I charge him, the gun's already bearing on his target. Okay, now go ahead and index properly. Okay, I make a threatening motion. If I move, he's still ready to shoot me. He can fend with this hand. He can get a good eye strike in, a good face mash, and he's still ready to shoot. No matter what I do with my hands, if I approach his muzzle, all he's got to do is shoot through my hands. All right? So that's a good situation. It tells you why we don't allow scooping. Another situation would occur, say if you were seated in a restaurant or whatever, you're seated behind a table, as you know, and all of a sudden you get your startle cue, you start to pull up. If you're used to scooping the gun, it's not unlikely you're going to ram that slide right into the table and again prevent yourself from getting directly on target and firing. We want to streamline that and make it as efficient as we possibly can. Another reason that we stick close to a 90-degree angle, if you noticed, he's bringing the gun up and out, up and out. The reason for that is he'll always be able to duplicate a 90-degree angle. Slowly draw. He comes up here, stop, and indexes, which we know is always going to be there. It's the same no matter what. He turns the gun 90 degrees and now goes straight out. That angle will never change. It's always going to be 90 degrees. We're building proper muscle memory every time he does that. When he puts the gun away, watch what happens. He's going to bring it back. His left hand's going to go to an on-guard position. He's going to put it away the same way it came out. Okay, now go ahead and draw and put it back. He draws, 90 degrees, bang. Now he puts it back the same way it came out, bang. All right? The reason for that is muscle memory. We're building constant muscle memory. An additional reason for reholstering in that way, let's say that he draws, engages his threat, bing, bing, bing. All right, now he thinks he's done shooting. So he has a mental sigh and he scoops in reverse to put the gun away. Go ahead and drop your arms, just drop them. Okay, now all of a sudden the target stands up here that we might not have seen. In order for him to get on that target efficiently, what's he got to do? Boom! Swing up to the target. That's going to cause a couple of problems. And it caused a couple of problems on the draw. Number one, go ahead and do that if you would, swing towards that target. He shoots here, bing, bing, relaxes, now all of a sudden, whoa, he comes up. Now, two things happen. One, overswing. Nobody is in control of their body enough to stop that front sight immediately. What's going to happen is the front sight's going to travel past your target and then come to rest, which means, again, you're going to have to component shoot. Up, sight, trigger. Okay? Secondly, nobody's eye works fast enough, focus transition, to go from target to front sight shoot. Nobody can do that fast enough. Okay? The only way that we can do it quickly is if he shoots his target here, his main threat, pulls it back the same way he was going to take it out, and then goes straight back out to that target. Now we're back to the same thing. In other words, he's gone straight back out to the target, which means he's on his sight early, he's on his trigger early, and the gun's going off just shy of full lockout. The most fast, the most efficient way to engage that target. We don't want to scoop, we don't want to overswing, we don't want to over-travel, we don't want to put any extra motion. Okay, now what we've done is we've incorporated a cover garment. And we're going to talk about cover garments in the second videotape. We'll get into a lot of peripheral equipment, support equipment, etc. But for right now, let's just assume that we have a nice cover garment, okay, something that doesn't drag and hang up, etc. A lot of schools will tell you, there's no difference whether you cover the gun or not. That's bullshit. There's a very big difference when you cover the gun. When you don't have to cover the gun, as you stand here and need to draw, you just lift your hand and push out. It's very simple. Boom, bang, just like that. Especially if you're shooting some kind of competition rig where you're starting like this, you drop your hand, bring it out. Boom, just like that. Obviously, it's very fast. But we add a covering garment, how you're going to be on the street, okay? And a lot of things change. Number one, his hands have to come up, down, up, and out. It's a lot of motion. If we don't make that efficient, it's going to make a big, big difference in his ability to counter a threat. So let's take a look at what's important. Number one, don't brush the garment away, okay? He's not going to just wipe it away like this. Show him incorrectly how to do it. Okay, you see what he's doing? He's just kind of brushing it away. He's just bringing his hand past. Murphy's alive and well, and sooner or later what's going to happen when he least expects it or least needs it to happen, two things are going to happen. He's going to wipe the coat, and it's going to stay right here with the gun. He's going to get a handful of coat and gun, okay? Number two, he's going to come away real fast, and the bottom of the coat is going to come back on the gun like this. And again, he's going to get a lot of coat and gun, which you don't need. The correct way to do this is to clear the garment high. Watch his fingers. He's going to come in, go to your chest and stop. His fingertips are pointed at his chest. They're creating a claw. Now, the motion of the hand is going to be down onto the gun. He's just going to turn his wrist over, go straight to the gun, getting a good thumb deep behind the pistol so he can get that good initial three-finger grip. Darryl is going to go way too low on the coat, way too far past the pistol, which is common, and he's going to get a bad initial three-finger grip. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Go ahead, Darryl. And stop. Okay, now, see right here? Look at all the space between the web of his thumb and the tang of the pistol. It's an improper grip. What that's going to cause him to do is bobble the gun on the way out. Go ahead. He's going to have to correct it. If he's correcting, he's not sighting, he's not triggering, he's not able to shoot. Another reason we don't want to look when we reholster is because there are times when you may want to both draw and reholster very discreetly. For example, let's say that there's a possible threat brewing over here to my left. It's not quite come to a head yet, but I think it might. So I start my motion out of the area. I don't want to be involved. I start leaving. But I also know that the fastest draw is no draw at all, and having a gun in hand sometimes is very useful. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to screen our body from that side of the room, people behind here, where they can't see that the gun's already out. You see the gun is out in a loose weapons retention position right here. Then, once I decide that the threat no longer exists, or I've gone outside the establishment, whatever, all I do is reinsert the gun in my holster very discreetly and walk away. By doing that, I ensure that nobody on the periphery of the event has seen me draw the gun and then put it away. And sometimes that could escalate the situation, which is exactly what we do not want to do. We're gray men. We don't want to even have people remember that we were there. So here I am, existing threat. I see it getting worse. I say, time for me to leave. I turn, take the gun out, watch closely, screening, put the gun away, and then cover it back up. It's like it never happened. That can get you through some pretty rough spots. Now we know how to properly execute a good draw, okay? A lot of things happening in a short period of time, culminating in the gun firing, okay? It's going to look here, bang, there it is. Okay, shoulders hunched, everything's pointed towards the target, isolation, doesn't matter where my feet are, everything's happening. We'll put the gun away, on guard position, there it is. Let's talk about some common student mistakes, and you'll find yourself doing some of these as you do your own training. Number one, you tell me, you take a look close at the tape and see if you pick it up. Watch. What'd I do? Lazy left hand. What was the result? Look, my left hand really doesn't know where it wants to be on the gun. I don't really have a good grip. My thumbs are pointed up instead of straight. I don't really have good control of the gun. Lazy left hand. Both hands are going to move at the same time. See if you can see this one. See it? Too much of the garment on the gun, right? If I'm trying to clear the coat, the last thing I want to do is this, where I cause more friction between the gun and my hand. Here's another common mistake. That's an easy one. Why do I want to drop down and have the gun run away from my hand? I want it to jump into my hand. Now, God knows, you know, I want to be able to shoot as fast as I possibly can. There's no use in me doing this where I'm trying to have the gun go away from my hand. Be very cautious of that. See if you can notice this one. 4-3-finger grip, right? You saw initially I had a lot of space between my web and the tang of the gun. What did I have to do? If I'm doing that, I'm not sighting, I'm not triggering, okay? This is a hard one to notice. What I do? Ooh, lot of hard push on the end of the stroke. Let's talk about that for a minute. In knife fighting, like World War II techniques, we use snap cuts, and snap cuts are real sharp motions like this. What happens is your arm at full extension whips the tip of the knife back and forth, causing damage, and then you come back to a weapons retention position. Well, the same thing happens with the gun. If my eye is supposed to be riding the sight out and I'm supposed to be triggering, how can it when I know at the end of the stroke the gun's going to do that? Now, I greatly exaggerated that, but what's basically happening is you're whipping the gun at the end. You're not prepared to shoot. What you want to do is go as fast to the gun as humanly possible and then smooth it out. So it's going to be fast, smooth, and back. One more time. Fast, smooth, and then back. By doing that, you're ready to shoot at the very end of your stroke, and that's what the most important thing is. And basically, cold shots are where you come out on the timer without warming up, without even dry firing, and you go on the box. That's the most accurate predictor of how you are right at that in the morning. Remember, before you go out on the street, you're not going to be able to go out and fire off 20, 30 rounds to get warmed up. You're just going to go out on the street. So what we try to do with cold shots is we test ourselves without warming up, without any kind of manipulation prior to that first shot. And that's a good indication of where you are with your marksmanship skills. All right, the next thing that we're going to talk about is reloads. We need to make a few assumptions. Number one, there's no difference between a speed reload and a tactical reload. And a lot of schools teach that there is. You do this for speed reload, you do that for tactical reload. The fact of the matter is that in a defensive situation, any reload you do has got to be fast because you were shooting. Now you need to reload so you can shoot some more. And it better be tactical because you're already in a confrontation. So I don't differentiate between speed and tactical reloads. The only thing that I'll say is if you're behind cover and you reload, regain that spent magazine and put it in a pocket, all right? Never put a magazine that is not totally full back in a magazine pouch. Only fully loaded magazines go in a magazine pouch. But if you have the time and you're behind cover, you pop that magazine out, grab it, put it in your pocket, because there may be a few rounds left in it. What's the school book answer? The school book answer is reload when there's one round left in the chamber. The fact of the matter is you need to reload when you think you do. All this business about counting rounds and all that stuff, it's not going to happen when you're under duress. When you're under a lethal encounter, I've never known anybody to count their rounds. Most of the time, guys shoot straight from slide lock before they even realize what's going on. If there's a lull in the firefight and it's been going on for a while, reload then. Start with a fresh magazine. Start with a fresh magazine before you bolt from cover to another covered position. That's good reloading technique, all right? Now, the other thing that we have to be careful of is don't let competition styles come into our technique. And what I mean by that is a lot of competition shooters flip a gun with one hand when they go to reload. I have a problem with that. Murphy's alive and well. And if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. If you flip your gun while you're under fire, you're going to drop it. Sooner or later, it's going to fall out of your hand, and now you're going to be fumbling around looking for it. Let me show you what I mean. As I'm shooting here, okay, if I was to reload competition style, I might flip it like this and put it right in front of my eyes, like this. Got a minimal grip on the gun, okay? That's not good for two reasons. Number one, I flipped it, and I really don't have a good grasp of the gun. I didn't control the gun. And number two, it's obstructing my threat information. You're much better off if you've been shooting, turn the gun. Now, let me do that again slowly. All I'm doing is extending my left hand, loosening the grip with my right hand, and I'm using my index finger against the trigger guard to turn the gun so that the thumb bumps right into the magazine release button. It's very simple. It's a very controlled motion, and it's just as fast as flipping the gun. Let's take a look at it again. That's it. Now, from that motion right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the gun, bring my arm straight back down to this position here. If it hangs up like this, don't worry about it, okay? We'll get that after we've regained our new magazine and are on the way back in. A lot of people want to say, okay, we'll strip it out on the way out. That's too slow. Your hand should already be gone. It should be getting the new magazine. You should be going deep behind this pouch and getting your fresh magazine so you can come up and reload, okay? So what you want to do is turn, bring it straight down like this, get the new magazine, see it in, bring it up, and you're shooting again. Okay, now, as I just showed you, once you turn the gun and you bring it out like this, look what I'm doing. I'm indexing my elbow on a known point, my hip. Just like during the draw where I index my right thumb on my right pectoral muscle because I know it's always going to be there. During the reload, I'm going to index my elbow on my hip because it's always going to be there. And I'm going to drop the plane of the gun down so it's generally parallel to the ground, facing my target threat area. If there's a round left in the chamber, yeah, I guess I could let a suppressive round go if I needed to, but understand it's not going to be very well aimed. It is a round and it is available, but it's not going to be aimed. And then we run into the same problem we talked about earlier. Where's it going to go? What am I going to hit? All right? So again, I'm standing here, I'm going to turn the gun, drop it, and index. Now, this is where this hand becomes important, my left hand. I'm actually going to draw this other magazine, and I'll show you what I mean. My eyes stay downrange looking at my threat area, okay? Hopefully I'm behind some kind of barricade, and I'm looking downrange. Now, this hand comes real important because I'm going to draw the magazine pouch. I'm going to clear my coat, just like I just did, just like I do on the strong side with the gun. Clear the coat. My thumb goes way deep behind the magazine. The bottom 3 fingers wrap. I lift it straight up. Now look how long my finger is right here. Okay, there's a reason for that. Sometimes when you pull a magazine out of a pouch, you'll have what we call a long round. In other words, it'll catch the feed lip right there. With my finger that long, all I do is that, and it's ready to go into the gun. If I don't do that, then I'm going to have to struggle and dick around and figure out a way to put these 2 pieces together. They won't go. So I'm just going to get rid of it and stick it in the gun, bring it up, and ready to fire. All right? So from this 3-finger grip right here, all I've got to do is draw the magazine pouch, boom, boom, been shooting, drop that, grab this one, pull it out, okay? Check for the long round without looking. Now, momentarily, drop my head, put the trailing edge of the magazine into the magazine well, and without losing palm-heel contact, rock it forward and bring it straight back up, okay? Common error is people will bring their palm off the magazine, straighten the gun out, and the magazine will fall free. We don't want that to happen, so all we're going to do is ride the magazine straight in, okay? So altogether, it's going to look something like this. Then shooting, get rid of it, get the new one, put it in and bring it up. That's simple. All right, let's take a look at what it looks like live fire. All I'm going to do is produce the gun, shoot a couple of rounds to simulate that I've been firing, and then I'm going to do a nice controlled reload. Let's shoot that sequence again. And that's all there is to it. Stay cool, collected, and make your motions count. Now let's talk about some student errors. Most commonly what we see on the range is that students try to rush and make the reload so fast that they lose control of their bodily motions. When that happens, again, you end up spasmodic, not fast. Smooth is fast. Efficiency equates with speed. The first likely mistake is the student leaves the gun up in front of his face and watches his hand go to his magazine pouch. I've taken my eyes off the target area much too long. I can't see what's going on. Get the gun down and out of your eyes. Another student error is improper grabbing of the magazine. Let's take a look at what that might look like. Look at that. Do I have a grip of that magazine? No. What's likely to happen? This. Okay? By doing this, we can guide the magazine in properly. We have maintained full control, back up, the way we're supposed to. Watch closely. After I perform my reload, my head's going to come up slightly before my weapon comes up. Why? Because I have to fixate on a target so I can interrupt the eye target line. Let's take a look what that looks like. No way, I'm not going to make that shot. Different that time. Head's coming up right before the gun, and then the gun's following it up, interrupting the eye target line. That's really about all there is on reloads. You can dry fire reloads all day long, and you need to. A good reload time is what we'll give you at the end of this video as a standard. Try to get to that standard. That's a mean average of where you should be in your ability to go shot to shot. and still have an acceptable time. Malfunctions can be very problematic for obvious reasons. You've been firing, and now all of a sudden your gun won't function. It's a malfunction. We need to correct it quickly in order to be able to fire again. It's a failure to fire. That can be caused by a number of different reasons. One, not initially seating the magazine well in the weapon. Number two, on reloading, not seating the magazine well. What that causes the gun to do is, one round goes off, the slide comes back, magazine drops slightly, the slide goes back forward without stripping a round from the magazine and chambering it. You go to press the trigger, click. It's called an oh shit. As soon as you hear it, you hear click. The next thing you hear is oh shit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about how to correct that. Simple drill called a tap rack bang. And that tap rack bang drill is going to correct a lot of malfunctions, not just a failure to fire. In order to set up a failure to fire, what I want you to do is take your loaded weapon, check and make sure it's loaded, and then before you put it back in the holster, just depress the magazine release button. Don't pull the magazine out, just depress the magazine release button. What that's going to cause is you're going to draw the weapon, fire one round, attempt to fire a second round, and hear that click. Oh, shit. Bring it back in. What you're going to do is bring the gun slightly into your chest. Still look downrange. The heel palm of your hand, boom, into the magazine. Roll the gun over. Pull the slide to the rear, regain the gun, and continue to fire. All right? Let's take a look at what that might look like. It's a simple process. All right, now, before we move on to one more, let's take a look at a common error people make with tap rack bang. Simply enough, they try to work not ergonomically with the pistol. Here's a common mistake that we see. What's wrong with this? What am I forgetting to do? Tap, tap, rack, bang. All right, let's take a look at that again. Okay, obviously this is not a powerful motion. This is. In some circles, foreign markets, they do what's called slingshotting, and I don't suggest that you do that. Let's take a look at what a slingshot looks like, and then I'll discuss why we don't do it. Is there any reason to believe that that second round's accurate? Probably not. As I said inside, we have to be very careful of muzzle whip. Regain the hands close in, and then press the pistol forward in a controlled manner, just like we do in a draw. That's a controlled manner of clearing that malfunction. All right, let's talk about failure to eject now, most commonly referred to as a stovepipe. The most dangerous part of doing this is the setup. What we want to do is be able to control the weapon in order to set up the drill properly for training. I'm going to show you how to do that. In the case of a double action, cock the double action back. With a Glock or any light pistol, you don't have to worry about it. Take an empty brass, like this, seat the back of the pistol strap, back strap, against your stomach and belt buckle. Hold it, push back slightly, insert your piece of brass, and there it is. That's your stovepipe. Let's talk about mechanically what's happening with the stovepipe. What this means is we had a failure to eject. It extracted, but it didn't eject. So, the pistol fired, the slide came back. For some reason, the brass shell didn't eject. The slide came forward, stripped the fresh round out of the magazine, started it into the chamber, and then caught the piece of brass, which means there's already a bullet started into the chamber. A lot of people don't understand what's happening here. The reason this is important is if I pull this slide all the way to the rear, what might I cause? That's right, a double feed. You've created a huge problem when you only had a little one to begin with. Knowing the functioning of your gun is key. To get rid of a stovepipe is very simple. You're going to see it very clearly. Big piece of brass hanging out the side of your pistol. All we're going to do is, if you want, bring the pistol in a little bit to make it more ergonomic. Take the hand, your left hand, off the gun. Bring it over the top without muzzle flashing your fingers. Flick it, bring it under, straight back out. Remember, muzzle flash can happen right in here, and in the excitement of an event like a lethal encounter, we don't want to have any sympathetic muscle tightening where you put a bullet through that hand. Keep your hand well clear of the gun as you do that manipulation. There's one last thing that I'd like to talk to you about, and that's slide-mounted safeties. The reason that's important is that a lot of these manipulations that we're doing, the tap, rack, bang, the stovepipe drill right there, anytime your hand comes around the back side of the slide, you have to be careful that you don't knock that weapon into a safe position. You'll know because you'll come back up into a firing position and have nothing but mush, okay? Very simply, all you're going to do is, when you manipulate the gun, whether it's here or whether it's here, if you have to draw the slide to the rear, draw it back and then let it go. If you notice, I'm not holding it onto it and letting it slide back through my fingers. That's very likely to knock the weapon on safe and get a trigger full of mush. So all we're going to do again is here, let it go, and then shoot again. The next malfunction that we're going to talk about is the double feed. Double feed is the most problematic of all the malfunction and the hardest to clear. The first thing that you're going to do when you have a double feed is move the cover, because there's no fast way to do it exposed to gunfire. So the first thing you do when you notice you've got a double feed is move the cover. Now, in order to progress through training, I'm going to have to show you how to set one of these up. I'm going to get a loaded pistol on my hip. What I'm going to do is take it out, and I'm going to walk you through how to set up a double feed. Okay? All right. We're going to draw the pistol like we normally would, bring it straight back in. First, we have to unload the pistol. We know how to do that. Turn the pistol, drop the magazine, goes between the index finger and little finger, or the ring finger and little finger. Eject that round. There it is in my hand. I have a safe weapon. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinsert this round into the chamber. I'm going to put my magazine in. Now I'm going to ride my slide home. It's one of the few times that I'll actually ride my slide home. And there it is, my double feed. Now, we know that the first thing I've got to do is move the cover. What's the second thing that you have to do when you have a double feed? Did you say drop the magazine? I can't do that. There's no way, because the pressure of the slide is pushing forward on that round that's causing my double feed. It won't come out. The first thing you've got to do is lock the slide to the rear. That takes the pressure off the magazine and lets it fall free. Let that magazine drop. The next thing that we're going to do is let the slide go forward and let the extractor grab any existing round in the chamber. Rack, rack, rack several times. Let the extractor and the ejector do their work. Be mindful that your palm isn't covering up the ejection port and keeping that round from coming out. Once we know it's clear, reach back, take a fresh magazine, insert it in the weapon. That's all there is to that. Let's talk a little bit about now use of cover. All right, one of the most important things that you can learn to do is use cover effectively, because like I said, the slapping gun leather myth is just that, it's a myth. You're not just going to stand out in the open and draw against someone when possible. Let's talk about then the three different kinds of cover. There's stand-up cover or high cover. Then there's medium cover, say for instance a lamp post or other kind of obstruction like that, maybe a mailbox, newspaper stand, anything that could be wide enough and thick enough to actually act as cover. And then there's low cover, and that would be like a curb. A friend of mine down in the Dominican Republic actually had to use a curb to avoid being fired on. So even things that low can save you in a crunch. So let's talk about the most common student error. Most common student error when you're talking about barricades is basically people will move so close up onto the barricade that they can't actually fire. They're encroaching on the barricade. They don't have any distance. So when they start to come out like this and expose themselves to pie out an area, not only are they in an uncomfortable shooting position, there's no easy way to get back into cover. All right, so what we want to do is, anytime that we think there might be a problem, when we approach cover, we want to extend the non-shooting hand and use that as our distance. Now I've got plenty of distance, and if I start pieing out the area here, whoa, I can get back behind cover very quickly. All right, so all I'm going to do again is leave that space so I can move out, move out, move out, pie out incrementally, always ready to shoot. Leave the muzzle right in front of my eyes. I don't want to drop it because I don't want to have to lift it and shoot, okay, creating that overswing. I just want to have it right in front of my eyes. So all I'm going to do is pull out, step out, and there I go. I'm good to fire, okay? So all you're going to do again is, as you move up to the barricade, extend this hand, stop, take the weapon out, and then you're ready to fire, okay? Now, drawing to a medium barricade. you should be able to draw to a kneeling position as quickly as you can, just drawing and firing, okay? There's nothing more than this. As I come up on this barricade, or if it was a mailbox or some other mid-level barricade that we might use, all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to come down to the same position. There's no noticeable difference in speed, okay? So as I come up again, let's say that there's a mailbox right there. I come up, all I'm going to do is just, whoa, come down, and there I am, ready to fire. It's very simple, okay? Very, very simple and easy to accomplish. Now, as we go down to a low barricade, there is going to be a fairly significant time difference. The reason is the first most important thing we want to do is get down, all right? We have to get down. We know that's the only cover that we're going to have. So the first thing we got to do is get down. So all I'm going to do as I come up here, in fact, we'll do it right here. Let's say that this is the only cover that existed. This is all I've got. As I walk up here, I've got to first drop to a kneeling position so that I can impede my progress down as I fall. Now I'm going to start to draw the gun. Watching the muzzle direction, keeping it off my hand, I'm going to roll down into my covered position. Just like this. Okay, really simple. And if you look, all I'm doing is creating a rifle right along my arm, just like this, in a nice, easy, comfortable, stable firing position. Always reholstered from a kneeling position. Then stand up, okay? So again, let's take a look at that. Let's say that I'm just walking along, all of a sudden I get shot at. Whoa! And that's all there is to it. Very, very simple. By paying attention to these few basic rules, you're going to find that you can adequately move the cover a lot faster, a lot safer, and be ready to fire faster than you would if you just flopped down on the ground kind of spasmodically. Same thing here. There's no need to get excited. If that's truly cover and not concealment, don't mistake the two. If that's truly cover, I really have quite a bit of time. So as I come up here, the fact that I'm putting my hand out and stopping has got really nothing to do with much. I've got the time to do that. I'm behind cover. No need to get excited. If you find yourself going to the opposite barricade, in other words, I've got to go to this side. As you come up, all you're going to do, what I like to try to do is step with my foot against the wall right here, using that as the same basic standoff distance. And then speaking out, coming out, pieing out the area, muzzle first to danger all the time. Always ready to shoot. Don't make that ugly common mistake of having the weapon down and having to bring it up to shoot. Too slow causes overswing, bad news. Have the front sight go into danger first. Your eyes right behind it, pie out that area, keep pieing, no problem, okay? So as you come up onto this area, the strong side, again, just step against the wall, boom, there's your space. Good wide stance right here, draw, and there we go, we're into it. If I need to get back to cover, whoa, back behind cover. Simple. But max violence. I mean, we're cranking. The minute we're here, that switch comes on, and you're just rocking. I mean, you're just doing. Just hit him. I don't care whether your hand's like this, or like this. Okay? Just hit him. And if he doesn't do what you want,
Or if you all know how to do this, right? It's up to you. This hurts like a A lot of people teach, you know, football kicks, axe kicks, good old American stomping the piss out of somebody. That's me. Yeah.